Hi guys, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and this is my May Rewind. So this is a look back at what I read in May with a thumbs up, thumbs down rating and a little bit on why. And I did read a lot in May, but not necessarily the things I was supposed to be reading, so it made for an interesting month. Here we go. And these are in no particular order. First up is the Wednesday YA pick for the month, and that was Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I said before that Libba is kind of hit and miss with me. I know everybody loves the Gemma Doyle books, but I apparently am not part of everybody because I did not. But I did really like The Diviners, and this and Going Bovine both sounded really interesting to me, so I have both, and figured I would give Libba more chances, and I'm glad I did because I liked Beauty Queens. I can definitely see why some people wouldn't like it. It is over the top, it is a bit cheesy sometimes, but in a way that works, and I thought actually works really well for satire, which is something people normally don't nail for me. She actually got the elements of satire down pretty well, so I liked that and appreciated it. And it had a lot of things that just really struck me or were really funny and good at what they were supposed to do. So good at making you think or good at poking fun or whatever it may be. Had a lot of different things going, tackled a lot of different things, not just the beauty queens, but also commercialism and consumerism. It's very, very feminist and tackles a lot of issues of gender and self-identity and just has a lot going on that could have ended up really muddled and instead just worked. It felt like Libba had taken everything that she'd ever wanted to say on specific issues and thrown them all into one book, and instead of it just being a total hodgepodge of meaninglessness and jumble, it actually all worked together. I was pleasantly surprised. Plus, a book with footnotes pretty much always gets bonus points with me. I also read My Last Kiss by Bethany Neal, which is sort of contemporary paranormal-ish about a girl who's trying to figure out how exactly she died. I started it and had read most of it in April, but just didn't have a chance to finish it up, so I finished it up in May. And definitely a thumbs up, so yay, fellow Michigander Bethany. After death stories have become kind of a trend. It's not that it's completely new ground to cover, but it's always interesting to see how it is covered. And I liked how Bethany handled Cassidy's story and how she's puzzling things out and analyzing her own choices in her life and how well she thinks she knows the people that she was surrounded by during her life. Makes for an interesting read. There are a lot of different character dynamics going on that I really liked. And though I was pretty sure I knew what was going on, I do have to hand it to her. She did make me question. I questioned just about everybody. That's always good in something like this that's got a mystery element, because normally it's like page 2 and I'm like, I know how this is going to unfold, and then I get kind of frustrated with the character when they don't, but she actually really made it work and made Cassidy not quite knowing what happened really work and make sense. After I was finished with the book, I also had the pleasure of interviewing Cassidy, and yes, I do mean Cassidy. I interviewed the dead character of this book, and you know, Bethany was along for the ride too. So I will leave a link to that, and you can go check that out. And if you're watching it early enough in the month of June, you can enter to win a copy of the book and a swag pack and all kinds of cool stuff, so definitely go check that out. I read Midsummer's Nightmare by Cody Keplinger, which is a contemporary story about a girl who has a fling with someone and then finds out that he's going to be her stepbrother, and she didn't even know that her father was engaged, so bit of a kerfuffle there, and again, thumbs up. I didn't like it as much as The Duff, and it would be hard for me to like it as much as The Duff because I loved The Duff. That one really kind of struck a chord with me, but it was really fun, definitely in Cody's wheelhouse of steamy YA and angsty, somewhat bitchy lead characters. She sort of tackles the idea of slut-shaming in this, and I'm going to talk about that more later in the video too, because that's a trend that I'm seeing a lot more in books and am liking, but basically good, solid contemporary, even though it didn't feel as powerful necessarily as it could have. It didn't affect me quite the same way as The Duff. Still so engaging, very quick moving, and characters that I liked and I rooted for. And I think Cody just really understands her audience and understands human nature, and she shows it, good, bad, and ugly. She really has a way of making you believe it, so talented young lady. Next up, The Falconer by Elizabeth May. Shiny, shiny. Which is sort of steampunk, historical, paranormal. definitely fun on the bloodthirsty side. I didn't like it as much as I was hoping I would, especially in the beginning, but still definitely gets a thumbs up. It took a little while to find its tone for me and kind of level out, though I liked how things came around and how my questions were answered, I guess, and I don't want to give anything away. But I think probably my biggest complaint about it, if it was really a complaint, was that the steampunk aspects of it really just felt like the trappings of steampunk to be able to label it steampunk. It didn't necessarily feel like it was actually a focus or a driving force behind anything that was going on, and some of these steampunk aspects felt really unbelievable. I did like the main character and kind of discovering more about her, even if I didn't love her in the beginning, and I really like where it seems to be going, and by the time I got to the end of the book, I was fully in, wanting more, definitely looking forward to book 2. And that's all I'm going to say about this for now, because it was actually the winner of the June Stack of 5 review vote, so I will be giving this one a full video review. The last physical book of the month was The Truth About Alice, which, as I mentioned earlier, kind of takes on the idea of slut-shaming and rumors and, you know, the way that we treat people and the way that we treat women and young girls specifically. And again, thumbs up. This is another one that didn't give me quite what I was expecting, wasn't quite as powerful as I thought it was going to be, and also not quite as depressing as I thought it was going to be, so maybe I'm kind of conflating the two together. But even though it didn't give me what I thought I was going to get from it, that's not necessarily the fault of the book. That's just my, preconceived notions and what I was hoping for going in, so I don't hold that against the book in any way. What it did deliver, I thought it did well on. It is told through multiple POVs, and that's always risky, especially in my opinion, because you have to do a lot of work to differentiate between the POVs and keep them all engaging enough that you're not like, oh god, we're listening to this guy again, as well as making sure that they all actually add something to the story and it's not just a gimmick. And I have to say, I thought she did that really well. I was a little concerned in the beginning that I wasn't going to be able to distinguish between the voices. The first two sounded a little similar when they started, but they actually became very distinct and brought their own perspectives to the story. And when it is a story about rumors and how that affects someone's life and how our perceptions of people are sort of fed by that, it actually did make a lot of sense and add something to the story to have those different perspectives, especially when they all had a part in the perception of Alice and what the truth about her was. So it actually did really work and come together well, and is very trim, very quick book, and definitely worth picking up, I think. Everything else I read was an ebook this month, which might surprise some of you because I don't actually have any reader. I did a lot of reading on my phone when I should have been trying to sleep. Was a bit of an insomniac this month, and so I would randomly find things to read. One of them was not so random. I read At Any Price by Brenna Aubrey, which Brenna had sent me. She had gifted me a copy, and though I had told her I probably wasn't going to have time for it quite yet, I just couldn't wait. As soon as I decided I was craving something different from what I was reading at the time and wanted some bedtime reading and not have to get up out of bed to go find a book, At Any Price was right there in my email, and my email was right on my phone. So went ahead and read that, and Brenna stole all my sleep. I mean, it kept me up way later than I should have been, and maybe that's why I had a bit of an insomniac month. Definite thumbs up. I really liked the characters that Brenna created and the ways they interacted, and I liked the story that she told. It was very fun and surprised me in ways that I didn't expect to be surprised, and I don't necessarily mean with plot, but just little choices that I think 99% of authors would have gone a certain way or said a certain thing, and Brenna would do not that thing. And I like when that happens. I like when I'm expecting something to be formulaic and, I can pretty much fill in the blanks, and then suddenly it's not at all what I thought was going to happen, or what was going to be said, or what the character was going to do or think, or just all those little things that make things just a little more unique and a little more human, It is very, very much on the steamy side, so if you're not a sexy times romanceful reader, you might want to skip it. It is new adult, not young adult, or even just straight up adult romance at that, and just really, really solid, and I'm looking forward to more from the series, and We'll definitely tell you more and have Brenna on the blog at some point, but basically, loved it. And the other 3 books I read this month were also romances, and I don't recall the names of 2 of them offhand. Actually, I don't recall the names of all 3 of them. One was a Highlander book by Karen Marie Moning. I think it was the 3rd one. It faded pretty quickly from memory. They are all pretty much the same plot, retold with different characters and different locations in Scotland. So, I mean, you know what you're getting going in, but normally her characters and their interactions engage me so much that I don't care that I always know what's going to happen. This one, though, did feel right by numbers. I mean, it really did kind of show. It felt a little phoned in to me, or maybe I just, was needing a shake-up. I don't know. But good enough, engaging enough, but not my favorite. The other 2, one was like a 99-cent Kindle deal, and it was from Untitled Publishing. The reason I read that one was because someone in my Goodreads feed had commented on a review, and the title kind of cracked me up because there's this trend lately in romance with everything is billionaire, and I just find it so silly and absurd that I just can't resist reading them and seeing how ridiculous they are sometimes. So I clicked over and bought it, and shouldn't have. I hate to say that. It did come around in the end, and I did like it in the end, and it was very quick and engaging, but pretty much I only really liked the main character and very few of the side characters that were not in the book very much. The rest of them I didn't really like, and I found pretty much all of their interactions really tacky and just kind of ugh sometimes. And I don't even mean with the romance aspects, but just not my favorite. And I also thought that it was very, very rushed in the end, so that was a little middle of the road. As well as the last book, which was something email order bride, I don't remember what it was. It was free in the Kindle romances, and the cover was unbelievably cheesy, so I thought it would be good for a laugh. But also, I find the idea of mail order brides really interesting, and so bringing that into the modern age with an email order bride sounded like it could have been really interesting. And I do think it could have been. I don't necessarily think it was, just because everything happened way, way, way too easily. All of the conflict was just, it would flare up and then be over within a page, if that. It just relied far too heavily on the heaving, panting romance aspects and on the sort of angsty, can we be together aspects, and not really developing the characters in the relationship and why I should buy them together. So both of those sort of Kindle deals were a bit of a letdown, but that being said, we're very quick, and if they're your thing, I mean, they're worth it. The one was free. You can't go wrong with free. But when I was reading those, I could have been reading something from my TBR and should have been reading something from my TBR, so bad Misty. But that was all I read in May, and that turned out to be a lot longer of a video than I intended. Sorry, guys. Oops. But anyway, let me know what you think of the books in the comments, and if you have read or want to read any of them, or if you find yourself randomly downloading cheesy romances, let me know about them. What ridiculous books do you find yourself reading when you're like, why did I just read that? Because those are fun, and I want to know. That's all for now. As always, thanks for watching, and happy reading! Oh, and before I let you go, I realize I never did an April rewind, and that's because I pretty much only read Please Ignore Vera Dietz for the April Wednesday YA Book Club, and another of the Highlander books by Karen Marie Moning, because, that's what I do when I'm trying to procrastinate. I don't remember which Highlander book I read, I just know that I did read one. I, again, don't think that I loved it, but also didn't hate it, so that seems to be where I end up on most of the Highlander books. But as for Vera, definitely loved it. Well deserving of that Prince honor. Quirky, weird, oddball magical realism that always punches you in the gut and just is stunning. A.S. King is immensely talented, and if you have not read anything by her, do so soon. And now we really are done.